Good morning, Ultra developers. Today we have a really interesting episode to talk about. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff that's a lot more high level than what we're usually dealing with engine development. We're going to be talking about game development. We're going to be talking about first person shooter mechanics. We're going to be talking about level design and environment textures. We're going to review some of the work that we did last week and show you some of the lessons that we have learned that will help you building your games. Last week I put a lot of time into just focusing on first person shooter mechanics in a lot of detail. And our approach here is to start with the player and work outwards. So the things that are closest to their body is what we want to focus on first, and then get further and further away from that. So I found a few things. It's If you're shooting and reloading, while you're running, then it's really good to make those things end the running sequence, and then force the player to press shift again to resume running. I'll show you that in a second. It's best not to use any smoothing at all when the firing animation. When the player shoots a gun, it's best just to jump to the firing animation right away without any smoothing at all. This is very strange because usually in games, we always want interpolation. We're always trying to make things look smooth as possible. But this actually looks way better. And I looked at it, and I was focusing mainly on Cyberpunk 2077, looking at the mechanics in that game. And once I saw it, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I also found that added muzzle flash and sprites. So let's just jump right into the game. Okay, here we are running around a little test scene. And you can see we have an animation specifically for running. And now when I shoot, there's no, at first I tried to do like a very fast transition and it looked weird. It looks better just to jump straight there and you're shooting. It's also interesting. Okay, so I'm holding the shift key right now and I'm running. And then when I shoot, you can see I'm no longer running. I'm walking at a slower speed, even though the shift key is still pressed. So in order to start running again, I release the shift key and then I press it down again. And this is actually pretty interesting because it gives you something else to manage. So if you're going around a corner, you stop. It definitely gives you, your hands have to be more nimble when you're controlling it, and I like it. It feels right. I noticed this in Cyberpunk 2077, and it's the kind of thing you don't really think about until you have to implement it. It's really something that you don't really notice. Here's our other weapon. We also have some pretty nice sounds from this. I got these sounds from one of the Sonos game packs. I think this was the 2015 original sound pack. And the way I found this sound in particular is it's a partial sound that I only got when I played repeating sound over and over again. Like it cuts off the end of the sound, which had a very long echo after it, and it actually sounds better with just this bass. Let's see, what else did I talk about with the mechanics? Was that it? Smoothing, yeah.
The muzzle flash. I noticed that sometimes it doesn't draw in a frame. Like if
Really?
you just hold down, yeah, if you just hold that down, you
Okay.
forever. You miss like some frames. I went in and looked at it. I was like, why is this not like rendering the
Well,
rendering?
right now it's by time. I think it should probably be done by frame. So like
Mhm.
we probably need like a world tick value that we can check because these components we don't have any guarantee of which order they're going to be called in. So I think what we probably need is like a world tick event that gets our counter that gets incremented with each render call, and then that way we
Mm,
can store that value, and then just make sure that the muzzle flash and the light only appear in one frame.
yeah. I
Another
mean, you
thing,
don't notice it, but when you notice it, you're just like, oh, why didn't I get a light?
yeah.
That.
Um,
eh,
Another thing that I noticed that became clear right away is that running around a big empty scene is not fun. This is not fun. This is not fun.
It,
This
it
and
wasn't.
this right here, this is fun.
In all honesty, this map was not supposed to be fun, but
I know, but
it's.
I'm just pointing that out. Like I didn't. It's the kind of thing you don't really notice until you start looking at it. This was the biggest. So these were just like some prototype buildings that Reap just plopped onto the ground just to test out some materials and design. And then this was the biggest building of them. They're all pretty small, but this was the biggest one. And then this is the one that I just started detailing. So it was very much a back and forth process. He would come up with something, and I would come up with something. And I felt like these details, like this is a pretty good level of detail on the interior, minus like any props and stuff that we're going to place in there. But I'm pretty happy with this amount of detail. And I really like, you go up here, I like this little part.
Mhm.
Some little environmental storytelling there with the blood on the floor. I feel like
Yeah,
this is a dangerous room. It looks like a prison. You've got the blood on the floor. I feel like these windows should be boarded up, and there should just be a lot like light cracking, like cracks of light shining through. But also, it's also a dangerous room to be in if this was a multiplayer map because this is a dead end. If people are running by there, which looks like a high traffic area, you're in this cage here where they can shoot at you, and you don't really have any cover.
or you can just camp with a sniper rifle or a shotgun.
Well, yeah, but you're always gonna have like people coming from your back. So, like
Mm.
this right here especially, I saw that and I was like, this is accidental, but it just looks so intimidating.
I like how the blood reflects from the like in the puddle. I expect you don't have screen space reflection on. That's just the probes, right?
I think that's just the environment probes.
That looks so good.
Yeah.
I also find it funny that you turned the splash texture into a puddle. That was like not intentional. That was supposed to be. That was actually the splash texture I used in Cyclone, and you turned into a puddle.
I think it
It
looks
just shows
good.
like, yeah, it just shows you like if you just look at something a little bit differently, you can get something else.
Yeah. Um, and I think this here. I mean, the materials there are questionable, but I think this just that looks so good. This is also using environment probes very heavily, which is another reason it looks so good. So I'll show you like I'm indoors, and then I'm gonna walk outdoors, and I'm still not in direct sunlight, but you can see the ambient lighting changes a lot. It gets a lot darker. So that's quite nice. This building over here is a little bit interesting too. Um, I noticed like when you like 3 sections wide is probably like the if anything is less than 3 sections wide, I notice it feels claustrophobic.
Eh,
So
Well, I was just feeling things out. It's kind
right,
these buildings were hard because I'm so used to having 256 centimeters high and everything, and I was basing these buildings off of a picture, and I was trying to get um like more accurate like scaling because one of the things like I got into early when I was starting to do this was recreations, and I like to eyeball a lot of things, but so this was like out of my comfort zone a little bit because it wasn't so uniform, and plus it's like because I was trying to match like a building in a picture, not really mapping standards, but
right. Well, I mean, yeah, it was a great first stab at this. I'm just pointing out that like I mean, there are many reasons why you might want something to be claustrophobic,
hmm
but just like keep that in mind. Like a room. We will consider a room to be 3 sections wide. Anything less than a room is sort of like a passage. This is a passage.
Yeah. And also, we need multiple entrances and exits. I don't want any
This is
dead
kind of a
ends.
passage here. This is sort of a hallway. This
Yeah.
isn't quite a room.
Right.
So those are all things to keep in mind. And we had a lot of discussion in a shorter period of time about level design, and I was like, okay, we need to do something with this. We can't just have these like shoebox buildings on a flat terrain. But I'm not sure. Neither of us, I think, were really sure exactly what to do. Um, and so we got into level design, and we have a lot of some interesting stuff to talk to you about that we can teach you.
Mhm.
So empty scenes are not fun to navigate. Complex mazes are fun to navigate. Like just simply like running in a doorway and up the stairs and around a corner, that itself is gameplay. I didn't realize it until this week, but when you're navigating a complex scene, like one element of the fun is actually just moving around. Okay, so I didn't know how to do this, and but I knew we were doing something wrong. And so I started looking at a lot of articles about level design. And I found some good ones about designing the layout. These are all linked to in the PowerPoint, and this will be available on our website. And then there's also a forum thread about this.
Mhm.
But I read a lot of articles like this. This is kind of interesting. I guess the prison scene from level from Half-Life 2 was based on Alcatraz, which I've been to because this is in San Francisco. It's a very cool place. I mean, it's a non-functional prison, but it's very cool historical site.
I think I I think that was the prison they had like a fake launch party at.
I didn't know they gave a launch party at a prison.
Well, it wasn't like well, it was supposed to be the official, but they delayed the game, but they already made the arrangements, so they just
Hmm.
showed like a demo. Yeah, it was not really a good. Yeah, people were not happy.
So we looked at a lot of stuff like this, and you can get into these articles in a lot more detail. It's pretty
Mhm.
interesting stuff. And then there's another one that I think Flow was like the one that I focused on most.
Why had the web archive these? They no longer exist.
I don't think this is the only place I could find them. Like the guy's website is still up, but these pages are not. So here he points
Hmm.
out a couple of issues like,
Dead ends.
yeah, dead ends are bad. Having multiple corridors between two big rooms is kind of bad. Um, this is interesting. If you know you look at enough of these and you start to get kind of a feel for it.
Hmm.
So we came up with a very rough design. And I said, okay, this is what I want. I want a rumble room in the middle. I want some buildings surrounding it, and I want the buildings to have connections so that you can move throughout the scene or you can pass through the rumble room. This is meant to be a first. This is going to be a first single player demo against a creature and maybe some other soldiers. But we're designing it like a multiplayer map because we think it's going to get a lot of reusability because that's going to be something that we expect people are going to want to do, and we'll probably the official demo, the official template will probably gain that functionality in the future. I would like to do that very much. But this was the basic idea. It's like a lot of action in the middle and then free movement on the peripheries.
Yeah, but the only problem, this design looks like 2 fort times 2.
Four
Like
forts.
it's just yeah, 4 fort.
Two forts.
There is
Okay.
a map called yeah, there is actually a map called 4 fort,
Hmm.
but
Okay. So And the most inspiring thing we had, I felt like, was that room that I showed you, uh, the biggest building that created, the one that I detailed, the one with the prison, the little jail cell with the blood in the hallway, the stairs going up, the catwalk. I knew those were elements that I wanted to, so that's kind of where I started. Um, and then we ended up with a design sort of like this. There's still a lot of free movement around the periphery, and then you've got this, this is forming more of a T shape,
Hmm.
but this is where we started with at. And this was the initial design.
That was too small.
Did we make it bigger or did we just.
I made it bigger, but
Okay.
I think that first pass I was just figuring out, and I was going. My brain was like getting confused because it looked right, and then when it jumped in, everything felt really really small, and I had to like redo the entire thing.
It still feels very compact, but that might be a good thing. And here's our current design.
It's just upside down.
And when you, well, depends on your perspective, but when you look at the flow of this,
Hmm.
we figure like the one team is going to start in the upper right and one team is going to be on the lower left, and these are the attack paths that they're going to take.
Hmm. Yeah. And also,
So
we had to add like when I was showing out that map, I actually noticed that there was just like a lot of space of nothing. So those what the green boxes are for. So those are going to be replaced by like models or something later. They just they're just there. So it's like, oh, so you can't just see across the map at one point because
I
that's
thought they were
also
there
something.
for cover, like placed
Yeah, they're
strategically.
they're they're there for cover. They're just there to break up the map a little bit because you were just going out and you were just going out to like an acre field, and that's not really fun.
Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
so
So-
let's assume like one. Let's start at one team's perspective and say, okay,
mhm,
well they're starting from this side, and let's go through a
mhm.
couple of the attack paths that we think they're going to take. Once you start doing this, you can easily. I've played enough Red Orchestra that I can tell like where the enemies are going to be coming from. So here's your first defensive position, and you've got snipers up there on the roof. You've got some guys across the alley that way, and you're going to have people coming in the right side. That's going to be your three main areas of danger. And then you
Mhm.
go up here and either hide behind this thing, or maybe we want to have something here.
Well, we
Um,
want the buildings. The buildings interior is not done yet. We're just figuring out the outside, and then the inside we can
yeah,
do later. So you're gonna have more um paths to go through and such later.
yeah, we
Just
haven't even gotten to the interiors.
yeah.
But okay, this side, this area, being out here in the open like this is very intimidating because I'm going to be getting blasted by a guy with a machine gun there and a sniper on the roof. So I'm probably going to want to take this route usually. I think this is going to be a very popular attack route for this team. And then I'm going to come up behind here. Still have to deal with the sniper, but he's got to be looking out for me. And then I can get into their building. Um, that's one way to go
That's
about it.
that's a big ramp.
I just added that so that we can go up there because I wanted to look at what it looks like in first person.
Right.
Okay, another route to go through is here. And now, well, this is
Hmm.
nice because I can kind of like pop out and take those guys out. And the sniper's probably going to be looking over there, so he might not see me at first. I can get along here, get along this wall here, and then attack that way. I think that's another route you could take. Another
Yeah.
route is going to be to go behind the building here. You could come up this alley, but that looks like death right there because they've got cover behind that crate, and then he's up there. That looks horrible. So you're probably going to want to run through this building because at least you're covered. At least you're not getting shot from up above that way.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the other team's perspective. They're going to start
Yeah.
over here, and let's get up here on the roof. Now we can see we've got a nice view. We can take those guys out whenever they pop their heads out. We can see guys coming out that way. We can destroy anybody coming up this way. This is, yeah, that alley there is very intimidating.
I think this location is a little bit too OP. I think we need to um add a consequence or a side effect, a
What?
disadvantage to that place.
Yeah,
the
well, we'll have
roof.
to figure it out. I think that's where the building routes. I think we can do a lot with just simply by deciding which one of these doors is open and which one is closed.
Right.
So you can come up this route and that and run across here in the open. It's not super appealing to me. You can come back this way, and this right here, you got to watch out for that guy on the roof. I don't think there's going to be any windows over there, but there'll definitely be people on the roof all the time. So that's why we put these crates here, and you can run up and then get behind that one. And the reason I put this crate here is specifically because I don't want the player to be able to just hug this wall and then run around the corner and pop out, because that's kind of a bastard move. If you can see from this point, if somebody comes from that way, they're going to have to be way back there where the crate is, which is 10 feet back, rather than just popping out a surprise from around the wall. That makes a big difference, I think. You just get a feel for this. Just running around, you can get a pretty good feel for it.
I also like just want to point out the elevation. I think the first drafts of this map, everything was flat, and I just all this is just brushes, and I just like used the new vertex tool, and I just made it slope down and everything. So
Yeah, that's
it
another
just
good
adds.
point. Just simply adding this, we're going to replace it with terrain, but just simply adding a little bit of a change in elevation. Well, that did two things actually. Now that you mention it, one is that it makes the map more interesting, but also it makes this make more sense because that gives us more clearance under this
Yeah.
catwalk. Because it's like,
Well,
how do you
well,
drive a truck under that?
yeah, and also it's just I probably should have made this a little bit more steeper, but I just like thought it would be cool just to run under a bridge and then you go up as you're approaching. I just thought
Hmm.
that element was cool. I also moved the bridge back so you would have that clearance because it was like in the middle,
I
and it
thought I
felt like
did
if you
that.
just
Maybe we both
I
did it.
think I think yeah, I think I had it like in the middle, or closer to where you had it in the drawing. I moved it back, and then you even moved, and then I think yeah, you moved it all the way to the end.
Oh,
It wasn't
okay.
that far. Yeah, so we both had the same idea. You just
Yeah.
say, I'm gonna do.
Yeah. So when you add just a little bit of constraints like that, it then you have to start designing to accommodate that, and then that really helps to get off that blank page thing, which we were
Yeah,
suffering from for not that long. I mean, because we put this.
yeah,
This is like 2 days of work, not full time, just like.
yeah, yeah. Josh is really good at just drawing things. So I'm good at showing things, and he's good at like figuring things out in between. I'm probably gonna jump in and do something, and it's a lot of back and forth. It's good to have that like back and forth because you work on something and then you like get burnt out and you don't know what to do, and then someone else just comes in and just you know uses that as a diving board and they take off and then they hit a wall and then you come in and you're like, oh, I want to do this now. So a lot
Yeah,
of back and forth.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, it's really great to work with someone else on this
Hmm.
because otherwise it's too easy to get stuck.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming too. Like,
Okay. So I'm pretty happy with how that's going so far, and I'm okay. So I think the level is small, but it's also like it's kind of like a Star Wars movie. Like in Star Wars movies, at least the first three, the pacing is extremely good. And I think their approach there is to try to tell a story as fast as possible without it becoming incoherent. And I think our goal
right.
here is to use, we want it to be small without, as small as possible without being too small. I'd rather work with a small level so that we can detail it more and learn more because we're not experts at this. So I think small is good as long as it's not too small.
And it also saves some like textures and everything. So, like resources.
Yeah, so let's talk about textures. This has been a problem. Um, And I realized, okay, so we'd never, like at the beginning of this process, we never really had anybody whose job it was to do environment textures. And I just kind of figured, well, we'll just rely on like free PBR websites and then fill in the gaps. Besides, I'm the programmer, I'm not the artist, let them figure it out. And it seemed like it was nobody's job and it wasn't really happening and the stuff we were getting didn't look very good. And I realized
And
like
the stuff we were using was just things like I did in GIMP for a little bit. Like
did
my
you draw anything?
I did well. We were using the developer textures. I had the effects. I painted those effects.
Oh, well those look good.
Um, yeah. Well, I did that in GIMP. I didn't use like expensive software.
Yeah. I'm talking well, I mean that's I'm talking about like basically our walls and floors and stuff.
Yeah, most of that was just go on the asset mat tool and you just download it. And I think I think there was one texture in the test folder I went in and changed something, but again, I use ambient CG as like a base, like how I use textures.com as a base. I just take something, say, yeah, I can use this, and then I just heavily edit it and I
Yeah.
make my texture.
So yeah, and I noticed the things that you were choosing were like the most subtle,
Basic,
like
concrete.
least uh just the things that were sort of you were purposely it seemed like you were looking for the most bland materials that didn't have any like anything like really standing out.
Yeah. Like the concrete, like I really like the concrete brick texture, and the wood just had like a normal map and a roughness value. And I was just picking like basic textures because I don't know, it's just something with like PBR like textures. It's like the metal looks dark and it just I don't know. Maybe it's just because I play too much Source Engine games, but it just doesn't look right to me.
Okay, so I don't think it's a matter of I don't think it actually has anything to do with PBR because that's a rendering technique. I think what it
Right.
comes down to is good art never goes out of style. So on the
Right.
right, anyways, on the right, what we're getting to is on the right. This is like a typical PBR material that you will get from a free website. And I realized, well, I mean, our stuff from like 15 years ago looks that was hand drawn looks way better than what we're using now. What's going on here? And so I realized that, and I went back yesterday and I dug through a lot of my old content, which was very that itself like brings up a lot of memories with the different people I've worked with, and just like you remember like what you wanted it to be, and just that feeling of inspiration. It's so that was kind of cool. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but um, yeah. So like here on the left is a texture from ambientcg.com, which is twice the resolution of the one on the right. On the right, this is an unmodified 512 by 512 hand painted texture from 2007. I
Is that
did
scaled up?
no. This is 512 by
Uh,
512. This is
to be
1024 by
fair, if
1024 on the left.
to be fair, if I see both textures, the ambient CG textures just not make that good.
What's that?
So
Yeah,
the ambient CG textures not made that good. So
yeah,
you could also create this on the right, this pattern
yeah.
if you
So
want to.
they're both PBR. I did add a metal roughness map for this, which metal roughness maps are very easy to do. They don't have to be exact, but it's very easy. And one of the rules I've learned is when you're deciding whether something should be metal, it's really easy. Because I was like looking at those windows and I was like, well, should they reflect like metal or not? The way you figure it out is you ask, is it made out of metal? If it's not made out of metal, it's not met. Don't use metalness.
Right.
That's been my rule, and that's never failed me. Like so, by default, like 90% of things should not be metal. Should not use metalness. You should just be using roughness. And that
Also, glass is technically metal.
Is it?
Just putting that down. It's made of like the materials from the earth, and it looks better when when you put metal to one.
Is it
It will
actually
actually look.
considered? Does it conduct electricity?
Uh,
I don't think glass
I don't
conducts
know.
electricity.
I know it's made of like I don't know what to really call it, but it just looks better if you sign the metal tag, if you give it the metalness. And I saw a lot of other engines set their glass to metal.
I don't know. In this case, I did not, and I just set the roughness to 0.
Well, I'm talking about transparency, like actual like glass windows that you would actually put in the scene, not actually like
That's a
painted
good
on windows.
point. Like yeah, because these have a surface behind it. These are like
Hmm.
glass boarded up, so they do have a surface behind it. That's a good point. Anyways, um,
Hmm.
so yeah, like I do think that you can get. I think you can use Substance Painter to make very high quality uh, levels for a first person game, but nobody seems to be doing that. At least if they are, they're not selling texture packs. Like every single website that I go to is just. It reminds me of like the photo based textures sites that used to exist that weren't for games. Um, so we saw this and we were like, okay, what's going on here? And so I looked through some of my old content, and let's take a look at a very old scene that was created for before Leadworks. This was for like 3D World Studio, or maybe like Leadworks 1.0. This is this outdoors warehousey complex type thing. Catwalk. Huh. There's the interior of one of the buildings. This gives you an idea of how the whole scene is laid out. I mean, it's got 4 repeating buildings, and then these 2 big buildings connected by this bridge. And then there's a lot of empty space here. A lot of space
And
for just.
all this is done by brushes, right, or CSG?
It was brushes, and then all this stuff, all the details are models that were created for it.
Right. That contrasts a lot from the zone stuff where everything was a model. But then
Yeah, and
again,
you'll notice like in the zone, like the buildings were not very interconnected,
yeah.
and that was really a goal, was to get that have that restricted space and have that confusion when you look at it. You can't really tell what's going on. Like, is this the wall, the floor? What is this? Because we really wanted to have something that would work as a multiplayer game. Okay, so I would not. I like this old scene, but I would not recommend using this. I would not recommend using this layout for what we're doing, because again, like, we want some restricted movement. We want pathways that the player has to go down. We're not building something that's big and open, because it's actually not as good for combat. I mean, there are some times when you might want to make that kind of game, but I don't think that's what we're going for this time. So,
Mhm.
what is there anything that we can preserve, that we can take from this and bring it forward? Well, uh, we now have AI upsampling techniques, and they actually do a really good job with this stuff. This is what it looks like upsampled 4 times. We probably only need to upsample it twice, but it just gets rid of those blocky pixels. So when you're even at more of a distance, it's going to look better. I just zoom in a lot so that you can really see the difference that it makes with the pixels blockiness. It gets rid of those squares.
And I like how the AI like compensates, like where the metal is bent in the middle. Like in the left, it's just brown or black or whatever, and then like the AI is able to pick that up. Like, oh, that's just a piece of sheet metal that's twisted a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Um, and so I was looking at this and I was like, well, geez, I mean, I'm not really happy with the free like PBR websites, and even probably the paid stuff. I'm not really happy with that stuff right now. Um, and I thought, well, maybe instead of looking at textures.com, maybe we should be looking at fpsbanana.com. You've got huge amounts of sets of textures that are designed for level design like this, you can upsample them, run them through Crazy Bump, and the results are fantastic. I mean, this is way better than anything you're gonna find on Ambient CG or Polyhaven or anything like that. And there's a lot of this content. Of course, there's a lot of questions about who actually owns this. Some of this might be based on commercial games. Some of it isn't, and you don't really know because
Yeah, FPS Banana, I wouldn't really trust it because a lot of people just like take game, like actually like game assets, they like change the color values or whatever, and they just re-upload it.
yeah, you don't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what? Okay, so what we've learned is you have to start with your texture set because that really defines what you're able to do. You can't even get started without the textures because it's not going to look like anything. It's going to be impossible to turn it for it to really have an identity. So that's your first set. Your first step is to get your textures. So the environment artist job is the environment texture artist is very important. The second step is once you have that, then you can block out the design, the layout like we did. And then your third step is to add your mesh props in. And so you can see here's on the left, this is just with constructive solid geometry, what this scene looks like. In the middle, these are all the little props that we add. I really like the stuff that conforms to a certain size, like the railing, because it forces you to start, it influences the way that you design your level. And then on the right, this is those things together when they're combined. This approach works really, really well for me. Another approach is the modular design, but to me it seems incredibly restricted. It might work for some types of games, but I can't, like, we wouldn't be able to make something like we would not be able to make something like this with modular props. It would be extremely difficult because we change sizes of things all the time.
Yeah.
It would be so much work to do that.
Well, one thing I would actually say is that sometimes sometimes starting with just development textures might be useful. It depends, like if you can see your map before it's even textured. Like in Cyclone, I was able to see my map before it was even like textured. I just didn't have the assets, so I used development textures for like the first year of the game. I pretty much was just all programmer.
You mean just like
stuff.
grids?
Yeah, it was my grid texture with the F on it, so I knew which way the face was facing.
Yeah,
And
I
then
have a really hard time with that because I can't really visualize anything of what it's
well,
supposed
I
to
knew
look
what the
like.
game was gonna look like, so
Okay.
like I was like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, but I mean, looking at this, like, it seems to me like a really good strategy might be to just download whatever you can from FPS Banana, Wadfather if it's still around, anything like that, and convert them into modern usable materials, which is actually pretty surprisingly easy. It's amazing we have this technology now. And then use that to lay out your level and just get it started and get a demo going. Get something playable that you can run around and get screenshots of and play. And then if you need to, you can always go back, and it's very easy. If you give this to an artist and you say, I need you to make something like this, only a little bit different. It needs to be our own. Most artists love it when you tell them something like that because the more clear of an idea that you can give an artist, the faster they can work. So you'll find it's actually like very easy to do that, and then you have something of your own. But it's like if you don't, you have to start somewhere. And for me, level design starts with the textures because that completely defines what you're able to create. I mean,
I also want to. No, I was just saying. I always want to say if you know someone, an artist that like is really really good, the newer style of doing things is probably the way to go. But this is like for like people like Josh and I who like don't have the like I guess the talent to paint PBR textures, so we're just trying to find textures online, and that's pretty much gonna be like 80% of people.
Well, again, I don't think it has anything to do with PBR because these are
No,
PBR materials.
I
What?
mean no, I understand that, but I mean like the tradition, like how textures are done, modern textures, like you go in Substance Painter, or you go into like this program, and then you do this, and this. We're looking at the old school hand painted stuff, and we're trying to adapt that to the PBR shading system.
Yeah, I think it's more about
Mhm.
designing sets of textures that are meant to be used together rather
Right.
than designing something that in isolation. It seems like I think there's something going on where artists used to design sets of cohesive textures and they just don't anymore. And
I
I know you can make this stuff in Substance, I'm sure. So I'm
right.
curious to see like what Andy, if you have any thoughts on this. If he is he still here?
But I just want to say real quick, I think our issue is because CSG mapping is not really prevalent as it was back in the day. So a lot of artists actually like just paint a model, right? Everything's a model in modern games. While we're still using CSG, and I thank you for still sticking with CSG because I don't like modern modular level design. I think it's very frustrating. But I think that's the problem. I think if an artist does a texture, it's going to be for a model these days, and they're not really thinking about you applying it to a generic block.
Hmm. I don't know because you still need like walls. You need different walls and stuff.
Yeah, but what they would do is like, oh, you need a wall. Okay, I'm gonna model a wall, and then I'm gonna paint that wall, and then you're just gonna duplicate that mesh 100 times throughout your map.
Yeah, that's weird. Is Andy around today? Because
He's
Yeah.
in.
I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
Mm, I think there are many creators out there for which creating actually textures and all the stuff with substance, but most of them are have the same reason like you are selling the engines, or they want to sell the assets. They won't hand out their assets for free. So in the most cases, you need to find someone like on ArtStation or something else and buy his service.
Okay,
In
so you think
addition, it's not that easy to create materials from scratch. So it's not like you paint on surface. It's more like you have thousands of nodes and you need to combine them together in order to make a material.
okay?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like that's like quote unquote the modern way of doing things. The way I did Cyclone and the way those textures were painted 20 years ago, someone went and Paint or GIMP or something, not Paint, not Paint, but like PaintShop Pro or GIMP or Photoshop, and they just took a base material and then they just did brushes and layers until they got the final result, which is totally different from how artists now do textures.
Hmm.
Unless it's like very stylized, like if you want to do something like Overwatch or something like
Yeah,
very
but
stylized
like I
approach.
like with this texture, I noticed we have a set of like we probably have like 8 different textures that sort of form a set with this. We've got the wall with no window. We've got the wall with a beam running through it. We've got different color variations of this same texture. Um, and I don't really see that anymore. Maybe it's just easy to like churn out a large quantity of just random shapes and stuff, and maybe it's that going back and taking more care and making sets of things together, it's just something that takes too much effort for the free sites or for people who are just selling packs of textures. But I think it's
The
really
problem is
important.
I think there are less people which creating assets for themselves or small studios.
Hmm.
They just use the big engines with the big marketplaces and just buy model kits and use them then because then everything fits together from basic and and
Yeah,
the big studios which creating the textures they have employees which are working only on this part of the game.
I don't know.
I think this is the current problem. So
Yeah,
the small
so
studios are just buying assets, and the big studios are just have their employees.
yeah. Yeah, so anyways, like looking at, yeah, you might want to like just using Topaz Gigapixel AI is what I use. You can upsample things 2 times or 4 times. It also does 6, but that's not useful. You can get a 4x. You can upsample a 512 by 512 texture to 2048 by 2048. Some of the old stuff, it has a lot of lighting baked into it, so that is
Yeah.
not terribly useful. I think there's what's the Photoshop filter that removes lighting from a photo?
Well,
It's like a
there
high
was like a
pass or something.
there was like a filtering. I wish I could find. It was an old article on like snarkpit.com, and it was like how to like take a. It was very old school. It was like how to um make a texture, how to make a texture from a photograph. And it was like, okay, well, you go out, you have to make sure your camera's like in this range, and then you go out, you take a photo, and then and it's like, okay, this is, and it tells you, it's a very old article. I don't think I could find this, but it told you like, this is like a good photograph, this is a bad photograph, and it's like, and then it's like, okay, you take a good photograph, and you have to do like this, and this in Photoshop to remove the shadows, and then you use like this to level everything, to level off the colors, and it's again, this is like back in the day,
Yeah,
and those are the types of textures that you have from all those years ago. Someone actually did all that, and then they went in and painted brushes and adjusted stuff and added layers and everything.
yeah, but yeah, I think there is a common um, photo filter that's in Photoshop and other programs. I think it's like the high pass filter or something, and it does a surprisingly good job of removing shadows. So you could use that as a first step, and then your second
Hmm.
step would be to run it through Gigapixel AI and upsample it to either four
Hmm.
times or 2 times. And then your third step would probably be to run it through Crazy Bump, which is or a program like that, which is what I did here. And this was just a
Hmm.
quick test, and it looks amazing. I didn't do the high pass filter as the first step, so this could probably be made a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah,
But
and also Crazy Bump, like sometimes you don't want like raw pixel data as your normal map. Sometimes you might want to actually paint a a bunch of a bunch of colors for the normal map, or you might want to go in Blender and bake a normal map, or else you're gonna get, or you might get a lot of noise.
yeah, I
From
think
my experience.
what you'll probably do is you'll probably more be like painting the displacement map and then converting that into the normal map.
Yeah,
But
something like that.
yeah, you can always do that. You can always do that too. So very interesting. I think there's a lot to think about here and some lessons that we might want to go forward with. Okay, so other stuff that happened this week. Well, before we go on, any thoughts on level design or first-person shooter mechanics? We'll have bullets next week.
Mm.
Any other thoughts on this stuff? Okay.
Mm.
So the last week, the EAX filters are revised. It's now using constants instead of loading a bunch of JSON files. There's so many EAX presets that I'm sure you're gonna find one. There's like, I mean, we've got like probably 50, and there's still more that I haven't exposed yet.
Are those set like flags so you can combine two or more filters together?
No, it's just one at a time.
All right, then. All right, because I was like doing so because I knew because when I was looking at it, it looked like um. Oh, no, you can still add multiple filters to a speaker.
Well,
You just change its index, right?
I removed the index. Um, we can bring it back if we need to, but we
No,
might.
that just makes my life easier because when we do the sound volumes, um, we'll just replace. We don't have to worry about if a sound already has a filter already applied to it,
Yeah,
and then account for that, and then only remove what was assigned to it by the world or another sound filter.
yeah.
That just makes life easier.
What I'll probably use that for in the future is for automatically fading one effect out and one effect in. But right now, I'm just not going to worry about it. It's either has an effect or it has no effect. That's how it is, because it's not worth like putting that much effort into something that's fairly obscure, and you're only going to notice it when it crosses a boundary.
Mhm.
Added entity collide command, which is for collision testing outside of the physics system, and this actually produced really good results with our physics for picking up objects. Um,
And it saves my butt for the triggers, which I'll go over later.
okay. Yeah, so I think we removed the idea we had before of using like one physics object and one visual object. I think that's no longer necessary, right?
I think, well, unless we fix the issue where we jam into a wall. You said something about something you needed to figure out with Newton about the
Oh
rotation
yeah, yeah.
data.
No, the collide command now it considers the rotation value you put in for if you're doing swept
Hmm.
collision, and it works. I think it works extremely well.
Okay, I'll try to comment out the dummy and I'll let you know.
Yeah, I think I already saw it without the dummy. I think, and yeah, I think it works extremely
Let
well.
me see. I want
Um,
to wait. All right, you go on. I want to look and see if that's actually the case because now I'm curious.
okay, I added rendering hooks for those people who are doing like really low level rendering stuff. Klepto. Um, so that's in there now. We're probably gonna make some additions to it. But it's working. The VR input system is updated. If you're doing a VR game, you need to be on the beta branch now because the some of the Axis input stuff was not working correctly, but it's working fine now. We can now disassemble prefabs that are in the editor. We have prefab breaking, and then okay, I'm considering some changes to the way the prefab system loads. I'm not sure if I want to talk about this because we've already got a lot of stuff to go over, and it's like a really detailed discussion that isn't that important to the end user. Maybe we'll save this for a forum discussion if it's needed. Um, Monday, I'm actually giving a bright and early Monday. I'm giving kind of a little lecture to the Kronos group about some stuff about the GLTF file format. I can't say anything more about it than that, but they're interested in learning more about some of my experiences working with GLTF. And so I'm probably going to be, I don't want to make any big changes to anything over the weekend because I'm going to be working on that. It was going to be a 15-minute little slideshow. So I was like, oh, yeah, I can do that. No problem. It'll be like 8 slides and then like 5 minutes of questions. So easy. And then I got an email last week saying, well, actually, we're going to give you half an hour. And if you could show up like 15 minutes beforehand to set up and make sure everything's set up, that'd be great. And then we're going to have 30 minutes of questions and answers afterwards. So that just got upgraded to basically a GDC presentation. So the amount of effort it's going to take to not look stupid is much higher because there's just that gives you enough time to go into a lot more detail. So I want to make sure everything's very good. I think it's a good opportunity for me and for all of us really And I have no idea who's gonna like the people that are gonna be there, but probably some pretty big, heavy hitters in the industry. So that will be interesting. I want to do a really good job of that. So that's what my primary focus will be on this weekend. And I think that is all I have for now. Let's take another quick look at the level here from the map editor. That's probably a bit shiny there, but those do look pretty good. Oh yeah, so here's our our wall from Ambient CG. That's our metal from there. Here's our metal from 2007. It was made by an artist.
It's a little small, but
I think that's actually the right size because it's supposed to be divided in half. That's not repeating. That's
no. I was looking at some of the models you sent, some of the textures you sent, and you said, and according to the textures, a 256 centimeter high wall was a 512 by 512 texture.
Back then, yeah.
I have also a question to the level. I know you do everything with brushes, but I think, I think it's a bad thing to do buildings and all the stuff with brushes because you have, in the end, a giga amount of entities which are basically doing nothing. So every brush is an own entity, and and the engine, of course. I mean, even if it's not that much yet in this scene, but you need to iterate them all.
What I think it's not as much of an issue with Ultra as it is in Leadworks. The number of individual entities was a big bottleneck. In Ultra, it's not. I think what we can probably do is what I'm probably planning on doing. We don't have this scene split up very nicely. We do have
because the copy and paste bug.
We do have let's see, zoo buildings. We do have this scene split up, grouped up very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
This is grouped up very nicely. I think what we're gonna do is we'll merge brushes. I think the rule will be if brushes don't have any components attached to them, and if their mass is 0, and if they're not a target of any flow graph connection, which I guess they can't be if they don't have any components, so that's redundant. But I think we'll merge them by group. I think is the nicest way to do it. So all of this will get merged into one group.
And and then when
everything that's directly in the building here, in that group, will get merged into a group. I think that's kind of a way to.
But you know where I'm coming from. But you know where I'm coming from. So you have many entities which basically do nothing. I'm not sure if you could create a function to make this, for example, to model or something like this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It'll just merge these into a single. Most of this will get merged into a single object.
Well, I have a lot of things to say about this subject. Well, first of all, from my experience in Leadworks, brushes were always more performant than models, at least in Leadworks. I think collapsing would make it look a little bit faster. And third, these buildings. I wanted to make my buildings and then save it as a prefab and then just place these buildings wherever I wanted. But because there was an issue with the probes, I was not able to do that. Another thing we can do is we can recycle the map to GLTF extension, and then we can have people make things out of brushes, save it as a model, and then they can. This way, they keep their brushes and the brush workflow, and then if they need it to be a model, this is kind of like proper in the source community, where you can make things out of brushes, save it as a model, turn it into a model, and that will also be helpful for a lot of people. I think
something like this would be totally appropriate that way.
Yeah, and you might want to reuse that in multiple areas.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like maybe extension. And we just like you right click or you have or you maybe it's a map or something, and then you just instead of making a prefab, you just make it a model. Um, and then just saves it as a model, and then you can reuse that brush geometry wherever you want. But you never leave the editor.
Yeah, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So, but thanks to Ultra, we don't have that difference between what's a model and what's a brush because a lot of Cyclone was made of brushes because of performance issues with models.
Well, I mean, at the base, at their core, they're the same thing. It was probably just that the brushes were collapsing down into something that was
More manageable for the engine to handle.
like more polygons per with fewer limbs. There is one reason I want to create like a specialized entity that is made up of merged brushes. Actually, I might call it a BSP tree, but I'm not sure.
Hmm.
One reason that might be nice for that. Um, well, no, I was thinking that you have like one material per face, but that's not
Hmm.
actually true because I'm getting much better collision when I use convex holes for the collisions for
Hmm.
the brush collisions. That produces very nice player collisions. So I guess that's not such an issue. Anyways, what were we
Yeah.
talking about?
Well, just to conclude without my thought, do you think like we can recycle the scene to GLTF system into something where the end user can say, "Oh, this is a really good like building, or this is a very good bridge, or this is a very good area of brushes."
Yeah, it would just be like
I want to,
save selected objects as.
yeah, something like that. That'll be kind of useful, and then you can still implement your class by group or whatever. But the part of me also feels like that's actually like a little bit more cryptic. It's not as straightforward. Also, that would mean also that you would need to expose the class from brushes, a getter for class from brushes
What's that?
for things. The class from brushes boolean that's now private in Ultra Engine, and I've asked several times if I can have a getter for that boolean feature, and you told me well brushes will always not be collapsed, but now you're bringing up that brushes should be collapsed based on group. So
Well,
I
now I'm saying it might be an entirely different type of entity. It might
right.
be a specialized. If I think that there's specialized features there that would be beneficial, then it might be like a BSP tree type entity, but I'm not
So
sure.
if I only so like in Cyclone, if I want my cyclones to only appear on brushes, I would have to look to see if it's a brush or a brush tree in this sense. But I would never have to test if it's a model.
Maybe.
What good?
If I do end up using the model class, then I will add some kind of indicator that you can test to see if it came from brushes. I'll do that, but I'm not sure like yet how that's gonna work.
There's also a problem that I faced today in the normal editor in the beta. So I saved my map, I reopened it, and basically many models are just gone.
Oh, I actually did a bug report on that today. If you select the entire map, all your models will show up again. It's a rendering bug.
Wait, what do you mean?
So Andy and I are talking about a bug that just happened today. We opened our map today. I didn't update my drivers or anything. Nothing happened. Um I opened my map and noticed all my models were not rendering, and I selected everything, and all my models were there, and I just had to select everything.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's
Yeah,
basically only the things in the filter are not getting rendered.
Please tell me how to. Oh, I just added render layers, but
oh,
I thought it was I thought it was automatically. Let's see,
where's the render layers? I
render
didn't see that.
layers. But I
Oh,
thought it was automatically getting set already. But you're telling me it's not.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's probably
I'll do that
why.
this weekend.
Yeah, it's on the bug report form. I found it this morning.
Okay. Yeah,
But that
I haven't
explains a
seen
lot.
that behavior at all, so I thought that okay. Okay, I'll definitely get on that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Yep.
Let's see. What else have we got?
Um, I got fun things involving the components, the current components so far. If you're ready, unless you
To
have a
talk
list.
about like your progress with those?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look. Are you gonna
All
stream?
right. Yep, I'll stream because I have things that I haven't committed yet. So give me a second.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna turn off mine.
Okay, I'm gonna share mine. All right. All right. So pretty much what my goal is with the component system is to create a lot of different components that are reusable and interchangeable, and you can have a lot of gameplay stuff with just reusing the same things over and over. So, so we have doors, we have buttons, we have triggers, which are really really cool and really handy. So I'm gonna just launch this map real quick. Actually, I'm gonna launch in Visual Studio so you actually can see the command prompts because that's actually going to be important. So we're in the debug build. So we actually now have doors, so we can interact with the doors. They open and close. It's really really cool. And we have this push button. You can push it, the button goes in, the door goes out, it pops out. You can press it again. And we have this portal like button, weighted button. We can put the box on, and it opens like that. We
Are you
also
guys seeing?
have
I'm not seeing any motion. I think you're streaming the
um,
editor.
yeah, I'm
The
probably
editor
hold
window.
on. Let me see. Yeah, I told you. All right, I have to redo that entire thing.
Yeah, it's usually best to
Just yeah,
stream
show the entire
your whole
screen.
screen, not
All right,
a single
let me
shot.
try that again. I'm sorry. All right, all right. So, same thing I said about the components. We have the door. We can open and close. This is your common door. This example is a sliding door, but there's also a sliding door for this button. And when you press the button, the door goes up. The button goes in. It pops out, and then you can press again to close it. And now we have a portal-like button. We put the box on the button, and the door opens. We also have that implemented today. We have a catapult, so we have a target here,
Uh oh.
and we can actually put a box on this little like catapult, and it will do its best. It doesn't really work with the player that well, but
Does it just add a force?
yeah, it's that philosophy, but sometimes it like screws up like that with the player. So, in Cyclone, I actually modified the set input system. Like, actually told my player class, "Hey, we're launching. I need you to like add these values to the player input." But I
Interesting.
don't want, yeah, but I don't think that's really a good approach for something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's not as reusable.
No. Um, we also added filters, so the tags that everyone that was implemented since like day one and everyone just ignored, they're actually useful now. So there's a trigger on this red box here, and if I just put a box in here, you'll notice on the command prompt nothing's really happening. Nothing's really happening. But if I put this red box, now I see it pass. So the trigger is actually filtering do its tags, and it's like saying, "Oh, if it has this tag, I trigger." Also, because of the new NC collision system functions, the triggers no longer have to be boxes; they can actually be whatever shape you want it to be, and it still uses an a bounding box calculation to check what's around it, but then does a second check to see, okay, what am I actually colliding with? So see, it's not passing until I actually put it in the trigger,
Nice.
which you couldn't do in Lightworks at all. Everything had to be boxes. Um, so there's also something with just simple movement without physics. Oh, we also have an explosion. So simple maths right there. So
Nice.
that's good for like explosions and such. And I was working with platforms, but it's kind of broken because of reasons. I think it'll actually crash, but like it comes forward, it just doesn't go back. But so yeah, it doesn't go back, but that's work in progress. So that's
Cool.
the components, but how does everything work? So let's look at this push button because it's a good example. Normally you would want this to be parented, but it's not. It's not because of a bug where if something is parented in the flow graph, the editor will just delete the flow graph connections and get sick of redoing it. So this pushing top does a lot of things. It has 3 components. It has an interactive component that just tells the player interaction system, "Hey, you can interact with me." The pickup system, you just need like a model under 50 with a mass under 50, and you can pick up the box. You don't need an interactive component for that. But if you need something like a button or a switch or something, you need an interactive component. And you can also enable and disable allow pickup. So if this is really good, if you want a player to be able to pick something up only for certain conditions, you can enable and disable that functionality.
I'm seeing a nice custom color scheme here in the editor.
Yeah, this is the color scheme I was playing around with, and I just never uninstalled it. I tried the purple. It's still blue. It's still blue here. But, yeah, so I could send you the I'll send you the scheme later.
Yeah, sure.
I still have it. But so the push button top, so on interaction it disables itself because we don't want it to be pressed again so the button pops up. And then when it disables, it's a little tricky here because we can't really see what's going on here.
Yeah, something that's really interesting about what you're doing here is I'm seeing a lot of components connected to the same entity or even connected to the same component in what you're doing. And I don't think that's something I've really seen a lot of before. I think it's probably a really good idea. But if we can find a way to make those arrows more visible, that would be a nice improvement.
Well, maybe like a collapse or like you right click in here, like collapse or expand buttons. You can actually see the connections when it's like all broken out, but you can actually collapse it when you're just looking at the flow graph or something. But I do this because in Cyclone, if I wanted something to move, I would have to copy and paste my Dura code and put it into another actor. And then it's like, okay, now I can move like a door. Now I have to specialize that. With this, like button top, I use a sliding door here because I tried the basic movement here. Like here is just a distance slider. And it doesn't seem to work as well. So I think a sliding door is fine. But anyway, yeah, we disable it, we open it, and then when it opens, it has a switch, and a switch is just a relay, but we can actually add a delay to that relay. So it waits 2 seconds for that. So it waits 2 seconds and then triggers to close, and then when it closes, it enables the button again, so you can press it again. So we have 3 reusable components for a unique piece of interaction. So, because we can use the switch for a lot of other things. That's just a logic component. We use the sliding door for sliding doors, and an interactive component is just an interface between the player and the component. And here's if it worked. Here's another example where we can when we interact and we flip. This is a state. So a state is like a boolean. So it's either true or false. And then we can flip the state, or we can manually set the state. So the idea is that you press the button, the platform goes to point A, and then when you press it again, it goes to false, and the platform goes to point B. That's a good state, and also you can attach a state to a gate. So back to Portal, like the 2 buttons and 1 door situation where you need both boxes on the button to open the door, you would use a state in the gate for those situations. And then we also have a print message, so you can print messages without editing in your code. This is just to test the door. I'm experimenting with it. Seeing right now, I was looking into so I have it as triggered here, and the door disables its physics when it's open and closed, this is so very aggressive, crazy players can't just jam a box in your door and open it. But it has some side effects of doing that. I just want to show that real quick. Whatever's on run. I think compile's run. So you notice that when I drop the box on the button, the box actually sinks into the button a little bit. That's because the physics is being disabled, and I guess the physics engine is just having getting confused. But if I would to disable that, it would have been fine. Actually, let's do that right now just to demonstrate it. Physics, lighting door, and see. We check the distance and everything, and then so when it's fully open, we can just disable the mask. And so same example. I'm gonna put the button. See, now it's fine. Now you don't see the box sinking in.
That is kind of strange.
Yeah, but I can force it and make the button go in the button, and it's not really great. So I was looking into enable that. I was looking into making
one way of dealing with that is to just put another object down there that has 0 mass, and then the button will never fall below that level, no matter what.
Yeah, but that seems to be.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm surprised
that's not really.
I'm surprised that that's happening. I'm not sure what's going on there. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. So got my trigger. Oh yeah, we're checking in my box trigger, which is just a generic trigger. I was testing to see ignore jointed entities. So if something is on let's say you have a chandelier and the chandelier is swinging from the ceiling by physics, but you don't really care if it's interacting with a trigger or something. The idea is that you would tick that and say ignore anything that's has a joint to it, but it doesn't seem to be working because it still detects my door. This trigger still detects my door, even though it has a joint attached to it for some reason. So that was just something I was doing right up to before we started. And I might just not worry about it. See if I push the button on the door, you'll see found door, even though it has a joint attached to it. So
let me see that. False. Just set a breakpoint in there and see what it's actually producing.
It would trigger multiple times because it finds a lot of entities, and then it will. Let me see. No, I think I put yeah, because I think entity happens every tick. I think I would just keep hitting breakpoints.
Find a way to isolate that then.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's not returning false, even though it has a joint attached to it.
Well, you need to see what's going on there because that doesn't seem right at all. Find out if your door actually, if get joints is actually. Is there any way to call that directly on your door and find out what it's actually returning? Maybe the get joints command isn't working.
Maybe that's my suspicion. No, it is because if I print it, I'm gonna get 00000 whatever, but I will see a 1 in there.
You need to set equal, bigger or equal. You have only bigger.
Bigger than 0, though.
Well, if it's 0, if it's greater than 0, then it would. Let's see. No. If it maybe it's returning a negative value.
No, if the size is 0, that means there's no joints.
Yeah, but it's still finding my door. It's not really a big deal. It's just.
Okay. Do we know if that code is even being hit? Set a breakpoint on if inside there. Set a breakpoint inside the if statement. Inside the if statement.
Oh no, we don't break everything. So here.
Yeah, let's see if that code is even being hit.
Yeah. But now I gotta do this every. Oh,
Okay.
I
I'm
hate
not sure.
debugging. Now I lost my window. Oh, keeps breaking because it's finding everything in it.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, at least we know that that code is being executed.
All right, I'll push whatever I have when I'm done with it.
Okay. I'll take a look at
Also
that
with
too. So the render layers bug that'll get fixed immediately, and also take a quick look at get joints and make sure it's
yeah.
doing what it should be doing.
Also, the box trigger is reusable. I don't know how this is gonna look in the layer right now, but the box trigger is reusable, and all you need to worry about is these two functions: on trigger and off trigger. And you can check if it's the first entity or the last entity to enter or leave that trigger. So that's really useful for like that button box combination because the player can be on the box and the box can be on the player can be on the button and the box can be on the button, but we want to open when that state changes or when nothing's on the button. When something's on the button or none on the button, but we don't really care if there's 100 things on the button. So only fire those outputs if
Oh
it's the
yeah.
first or
Okay.
last. So that's why. So this trigger class is very reusable. I use it as a base for the catapult trigger. My other triggers I want is a push trigger, which just pushes objects and players um, off of things. So like to prevent like players from like or objects getting stuck on ledges or something, you would use that if you don't want to use a clip brush. A hurt trigger when the health system gets implemented. So if you have like a pit of lava, you would just put the a hurt trigger on the bottom there, and it would and then you can like control damage. And then regarding the health manager, I'm going to do that later today. It's just going to be a simple manager of an integer, but something I want to do is do health regeneration, like so if you want to do something like Call of Duty where there's no health, it's just don't get shot 5 times in a row or something. You can enable health regen. So after a certain amount of time of being hit, your health will regenerate. So, and that's good for like puzzle games too. So
Cool.
yeah, a lot of things. So the only things that really are bugging me is just things regarding physics. If it doesn't have anything to do with physics, I think I'm in good shape for the most part.
Okay. Well,
But
yeah.
getting
Game physics is always complicated.
yeah,
But
it's yeah,
it's also a lot
yeah,
of fun. Um,
yeah.
so
But I'm
ne-
really happy to fix this problem. We can do triggers like this now. That's really great.
Yeah. So next week, I think after I finish my GLTF stuff that I'm doing with Kronos, I'm going to be focused. I think it's time to get ballistics going. So I think next week we will have a meeting
Hmm.
primarily focused on first-person ballistics. That's going to be really interesting. Um,
Yeah,
maybe
and
I'll
we
have
can
to
have
do some research at the range. Uh,
maybe
maybe. It's a good excuse.
well.
But
Mhm.
um, I think that's going to be a really interesting topic. I'd say my biggest. Okay, so I'd say level design is our next biggest problem. We don't have any big problems anymore. The view models for the first person weapons, that was a big problem, but we got that solved.
I think level art is the big problem. I think we have a layout. We have a good layout. It's just like now how do we not make it look like filter just dev boxes and everything. So I
Right.
think we're on the right. It's just the textures and the art and all that is gonna be a little bit is our like bottleneck there.
Okay, so yeah, there's two things that I think need to come next, and that's one is we need to figure out what textures we're using, and two, see, here's an example of this is a very old one, but it actually looks pretty good, and this is 512 by 512, so we can upsample this still.
I can't see it screen. I think you stop streaming. I'll stop streaming because think
Oh,
I'm done.
yeah, the people watching the video can see it, but I'll
Um,
turn this back on for you guys.
all right, let me stop streaming.
We'll do it live, Bill O'Reilly
Do
style.
it.
So this texture here, this is 512 by 512, and it's from like the mid 2000s, early mid 2000s, and it looks pretty good. And we can upsample this to 1024 or 2048, whatever we want.
I
There's a
think
really good.
1024 will be fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that because I'm finding out more and more that people have the same specs today that they had 5 years ago. Like people aren't buying new graphics cards generally. That's what the people tell me. There's a really good asphalt texture that would work for the center here, and then what we did in the old map, the artist he had like the asphalt, this beautiful cracked asphalt, and then he had the gravel on the edges.
Oh, I saw that texture. It was a decal in the zone, and it was just like a pit. I didn't really think that texture was useful because it didn't like repeat. It was just I think in the old Legworks 2 map, I think he just like stretched it or something.
It's that one.
Oh, that adds one. Oh, that I'm thinking of something different.
It looks. I think that looks really good, and if it's not high resolution, we can easily upsample it. And you'll notice like what he did here. He used the gravel as like a transition between the grass and the asphalt, which looks
Yeah.
really nice.
Well, that's how it is because the asphalt just crumbles on the side and then it blends in with the grass.
Yeah, we can add a displacement map if we need, and that'll make the blending a lot nicer because then it won't just be like a crossfade. It'll be like
Mhm.
look like pebbles are sticking out of the grass or whatever. I'd say.
Did you send me? Did you send me those some of those models? I mean, I in that texture pack you sent, or they were just textures.
I think I sent you everything that's in this scene except the tree, because I don't think that's
Uh,
useful. A lot of the models are probably not that useful, but some of them
well,
might
at
be.
that pallets, those wood pallets, maybe because it's just wood and like it's just wood is square anyway.
Yeah, and I mean we could also use them as just like filler, and then go back and remodel some of
Yeah.
this stuff. Like this is not good, but
No.
we could like throw it in there and then replace it. Um, the rooftop chimneys are probably fine because you can only see those from a distance, anyways.
Yeah.
The pylon is actually quite good. We can use this. This is
Yeah,
good.
especially on the outskirts and on the outskirts.
Yeah,
We could
no,
probably use
it
them.
looks good. And it's just square metal pieces, so it doesn't need to be higher poly.
Right.
This girder is actually fine to use.
Right.
Yeah, and if nothing
Well,
else, like there's these beams here. These are reusable if they fit. Um, yeah, so there might
if
be
they fit.
something. I wouldn't count on anything, but you might find a few models that can be updated. A lot of the textures can be updated. Some of them can't. But yeah, I think there is some
No,
good
but
stuff in here, though.
I think if we show this those bricks are actually could be very very useful. You just gotta show it some love with normal maps and roughness and a roughness map and everything. But I think those would look can look really good if you give it enough
Yeah,
work
I mean,
into
this
it.
is at least. I mean, this is going to give us a much better start than downloading random textures from
I
these
agree.
websites that I'm not very impressed with right now. Yeah, we were talking about last week. We were talking a little bit about like how photographic, photo-based skyboxes don't actually. I was like saying like, yeah, I don't think it really looks that great, and then people were like, yeah, yeah, and like the View program makes very nice procedural skyboxes without the sun baked into the image.
Yeah,
And
I think
now and now
that'd
we're
be
sort
good
of
if
talking about this week. We're talking more about like, yeah, photographic based textures don't actually look that great.
yeah, it's so weird. It's like you notice like the things that have been working for the last 20 years still work. And then some of the newer stuff is just like overly complicated, especially for independent stuff. People like me and I'm pretty for studios, it's not a big deal. But for like the average person, like just trying to make something, like it's very like overwhelming, like more overwhelming than it was like
Yeah.
10, 20 years ago.
I mean, PBR looks great. I love the technique, but I think you cannot replace good artistry.
No.
So if we can take like some of the existing content that I have that was created very nicely. If we can take that, and if it's possible to update it to today's techniques, then I think that's probably going to give us, that's the easiest way for us to just jump ahead. And
Yeah.
we can always go back and, you know, modify and improve whatever we need to. But I mean, this just gives us such a better, I feel like this is a much better starting point. I
I
can't
would,
design, you know, using textures like this on the left, I can't design anything with that. If using
no.
textures like on the right, I can start to say, okay, well, you know, I want this row of windows here. I want some spacing here. So where the because I don't want them to be too close to the edge of the wall. This gives me a lot of ideas I can work with.
I think I don't think we should do painted in windows anymore. I think we should mask those out and make them decals.
We can do that too.
So you can place that window on any surface. Like I remember when I was not making Master Source, I would actually just carve out just the window piece of that texture and put it on a brush, and then I would just like put it like in with the another texture.
The one thing I will say about that is that when it's all baked into one texture, you have some really nice bilinear sampling right here.
Right.
If it's a decal, unless you create that with one faded pixel, uh, I guess even if you do, that's going to look kind of weird. Actually, it's still going to be, you're going to have like a perfectly sharp edge. That might not be an issue. I'm just saying that is a difference that does appear, but it's up.
Well,
I'm going to defer to
can we
you.
just
The thing is with the materials, you look only for free materials, and I link something from Adobe. They buy Substance in this chat. There are many assets, PVR assets, which is used in many games, and they are also really high quality. Because
I know they're high quality, but are we going to get sets? See, this is all exactly. This is good quality. Is this how is this? Okay, so they have some free and some paid.
I
Subscribe.
think
So you have to. I mean, this is good quality, but how do I make a
I
map out of this?
yeah, if it see with a lot of PPR stuff, it seems like everything was made in a vacuum.
Yes.
it's made with software, and you need to export it from Substance. Then these are Substance materials, but you can export them as normal textures. So you
Yeah,
just apply
I'm
them to
saying
a
that
cube.
they are good quality, but it's like I don't see. I like seeing a set of textures that fit together nicely. Whereas these look like very. If you just put all of these into a scene, it would look very discordant. Unless you used, I mean, okay. Another thing I'll point out is that it's a lot easier to avoid clashing textures if you have a dark scene with a lot of colored lighting, because then you can use fairly neutral colors, and the lighting will do a lot of work. So you'll notice, like in the indoors here, everything looks fine when it's in the indoors here. Everything looks perfectly fine, and even up here, like everything looks
Yeah,
fine. But then you go
but
outside and and it looks like this, and it's like, what's going on here?
yeah, I think. Well, also with the buildings, I use my eyes to make the right colors. You know what I mean? And then you add the bridge, and that just looks like an ISO connect, like
It
with
does,
the
and
concrete.
yeah. These look like these don't fit together at all. They look like they were taken like on different sides of the planet at
Yeah.
different camera. I don't know. There's no cohesion
Uh,
at all.
the problem is simple. You just cannot make good looking models and assets without the right software. It's basically not in these days. It's not possible, and this is a big issue. And
Well, what I'm saying
but
is, okay, if we took this texture, this material, and we applied that to the bridge. Come on, Adobe. And if we combine that with, is there a search box here? If we combine that, let's just find a brick. And if we combined it with any of these, I'm saying like we would probably have the exact same. It would still probably look really, these, like all of these look very, I'm not seeing any artistic cohesion between these that would help to make a level. There's some, I don't understand what's going on, but I can see it. I don't understand what it is, and I can't tell you what the right solution is, but I can see the problem.
It's like I understand like those materials being like a base to start something. I think your issue is again, your issue is that like those textures are made so an artist can paint a model with them. Again, they go into they make a wall mesh and then they paint the wall. We're putting brushes, blocks in the scene, and we're applying a texture to it. And I think because they would go, because an artist would go in, they'll grab that brick material, they grab the metal texture, and then they would have a mesh, and then they would paint and blend and make everything look like it belongs to each other. In
This is the common way to make games.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
is that
it's the modern way, but
I'm not sure it is. Like, I don't think that I don't think that id Software goes on Adobe's website and downloads a bunch of random
no,
textures.
they have dedicated artists that they pay
I
a lot of
think
money
they go
for.
through a specific. I think they establish a specific palette, like color palette.
Mhm.
And because if you open up any textures from a AAA game, there's a cohesion there
you
that I do
can
not
watch
see is missing very badly.
Yeah, like you can
you
take
can
any.
watch this guy I linked. He
Hmm.
is working with Substance Designer. It's he is working on I think Blizzard and some other big companies, and he is making exact the thing what you say, like textures which fit together and all the
Yes.
stuff.
See, right, yeah, right here, I can see cohesion here, like right off the bat. I can tell that these would. I don't even know what these things are, but I can tell there's a color scheme that works. Yeah, like this. Very different materials, but I can tell that they would work together, even though they're, yeah.
Very abstract, like very weird, but the, the issue is that you need an artist, and a lot of people are not going to have the funds to pay someone to make cohesion level textures and models.
Yeah. And yet, if you go to, yeah, if you go to fpsbanana.com or, these old modding sites, you get better results than what I'm seeing. Like,
Well, that's 20 to 30 years of content, and everyone pretty much like the industry just had that standard. Go out with a camera, take this is the kind of pictures you want to take, come back, pass it through filters in Photoshop, and then paint over it, and there you go.
yeah, this is
And
quite good stuff.
And of course, he's working for Blizzard, and I think even on Fortnite or something like this. So
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best artists you can find. But yeah,
It's a weird
I
style,
don't
but yeah, I totally like. Yeah, this is nicely done.
watch this crown a bit down. Watch on this crown from the king. One up,
Ah.
yeah,
the purple one.
up here,
Yep.
the left.
Oh yeah,
Click on this
yeah,
one.
you've linked to this guy before. That's cool. Yeah,
So
that
it's
looks amazing.
basically just scroll down. It's just only a texture. So the mesh itself
Yeah, and
is
it's
pretty simple.
pretty low poly. That's very nice. Great artist. Yeah, really good artist.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the question is, what should we do? I'd say there's two things that need to happen now, and so level design is my top concern because this is going out. I mean, this is getting released in like 5 weeks, maybe less. Um, the buildings need an interior. I'm pretty good with the exterior. I mean, I've run around a lot in that level, and it seems pretty good. We need an interior for the level. Wall should be, I think, 32 units thick, 32 centimeters. Um,
Yep.
do you want to focus on that, or do you want to focus on? I also sent Reap Blue a lot of a, some big packages of old content I have that I own the rights to. And Andy, I think it's in the group chat. So if you're interested, you can also take a look. Do you want to scoop out these buildings, or do you want to focus on like resuscitating some of these materials and seeing what we're going to apply to the side of the buildings?
Um, well, I was going through some textures of the zone, and there was like one or two good textures in the zone, but they're all from you like Russia, Ukraine area. So it wasn't like that useful because it, it would clash with the like more Western industrial art we're probably gonna be using.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is that I don't have like modern AI upscaling. I have my GP. I have my AI setup, which hasn't been updated in God knows how long, and I have Wafu 2X. I don't have that
We're not going to use
$100.
Wafu 2X. Um,
Yeah, it's
uh, okay, change of scenery, guys. It's going to be an anime, Japanese.
no. It's actually no. I actually use that to upscale like pixels.
I
It
thought it
it
was
doesn't
just
do
used
as
for. I thought it was good for like
that was it.
vector artwork.
That was its original intention, but I
Uh,
think there's been updates since it. But I don't know if the algorithms are as great as the site you showed me. So
Yeah, just anything
uh,
that you want to use, just
I
add it to
mean,
the project and tell me, I guess, or however you think it works. But just
I
get
think.
it to me, and I'll upsample it all with Gigapixel.
Oh, okay. So just create like a pack, just extract everything and just make another pack.
Yeah, and I'm gonna do 2x. If unless you tell me otherwise, I'll just go 2x because I think all of it's
Yeah,
512.
yeah. Just do 1024 for everything. So if I were to like go in and like say I want to extract those windows or I want to extract the door frame from a texture, so I just make it the standard size. Everything is cohe so everything's just base size and upscaled.
Yeah, try to do power.
So
Try to do power of
yeah.
twos whenever
No,
possible. But
I'll just keep the texture size the same and then say, yeah, these textures are half the size than what they should be, but you're just gonna upscale everything. So this way, everything upscales, so everything's cohesive throughout the entire process.
yeah, We'll still have the same textile density.
I
All
also
right.
can create some materials and models. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
For
gonna
models
need.
or for wait some material. Can you say that again?
I
Because
I can create materials and models. I have
and
also
models.
from Adobe. I have also the Substance Designer, so
Mhm.
I can create some custom materials. But
Well,
How do you guys
I
I
want to
I
do
think
rather
this?
would use.
I think we should. If Andy wants to take time to do an art pass, I think he should be the one that does it because we have all those green squares that are just in the map. They have to be things. They have to be concrete pillars or fountains or whatever. They can't be green blocks. They have to fit within that shape, but they can't be green blocks.
What if we start with the basics using? Okay, so what if we start with the metal walls and the brick pieces and the base? There's like some concrete base. There's
Mhm.
another concrete piece that fits with this. So if this goes down lower, which it does in our scene, we
Mhm.
also have another texture we can put underneath that. Can we start with the basics? Let's get the grass, the gravel, the asphalt, the brick
Mhm.
surfaces, the metal,
Mhm.
and then use that
I
to
think.
sort of establish our look. And then if we need to replace it, we can. But
Yeah, I think maybe Andy can just download those images and then try to recreate that style or that approach with his tools. And so maybe we should just like have Andy just do the brick texture with the just be like, oh, hey, this is what the brick texture looks like. Try to match it or outperform it in Substance Painter, and he'll just go in and we'll go from there. And if it's gonna have the same issues we're seeing, we'll resort to the 2007 textures upscaled, which might look muddy. I'm afraid everything might
they look really good when they're like,
yeah.
it's not an issue.
All right, but I kind of want news. The thing is, I think we should be inspired by the past, but we should be going forward. And I think relying on things made 20 years ago is a step back, in my opinion. But I understand your perspective on it because I share the same perspective from what I do. But if Andy is willing to donate his time to take those textures to modern day, I think we should seize the opportunity.
Okay, let's identify the things that we want to focus. There's like 5 specific textures I can think of that are the most important to me. Let's just isolate and upload those in one post.
Okay.
And then go from there, and we'll just like by whatever means, however we do it. Let's just say that those are our 5 most important materials that we want in the scene. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, I can go into the pack and look through all the textures and say, yep, this is good, this is good. Nope, this is not good because it has baked in shadows. This is good. And then I'll upload.
I'm just saying 5, and I can tell you right now what they are. I really like this white metal wall with or without the windows. I really like the metal. I really like
the brick
with the base, with the concrete base. I really like this.
Yeah.
I really like the grass that's very like nondescript. I like the gravel and I like the asphalt. Those are the 5 that I really care about.
So pretty much everything in that screenshot you want, besides the metal panel, because that's a different texture.
No, there's a lot of other stuff in here, but just like the grass, gravel, asphalt, brick with the concrete base, and then the metal. Let's use those as our test materials.
Right.
Because if we can establish those, then the rest of the scene will just flow very easily, I think.
All right. I'll look through those. I'll isolate them, re-upload them, so Andy can know what he can look at, and what textures you need to upscale to add back into the map, and then we'll just see what looks better. I mean, we just got to do what looks better, and at the end of the day.
Yeah, let's just try it with those 5. Andy, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I look what I can do. Will take a bit time because no.
Oh, sorry.
It take a bit of time. So
yeah, let's just use that. Let's do a test run with those things and just see what we come up with.
I try to make the metal first, the white metal, I think, and then we can have a look how it looks.
Cool, excellent, very nice. Oh yeah, one more thing.
One more thing.
I've got some music. I want your guys' opinion on it.
I find a brick texture.
All right, listen, please.
We can't listen anything.
I can hear it.
Hear. Now I can hear.
actually separated into two parts, so the first part can play as the intro, and then it loops after that. What do you guys think of that?
When did you find that?
Sounds nice.
I own it.
You own it?
It's
You
for an
bought it?
old. Okay, so there was an old project that never happened before Leadworks. Actually, this is something I found while I was going through these. I used to play Left 4 Dead with a couple of people, and we had this. We were going to make like this World War II shooter that was going to be like Red Orchestra, but on the Western Front.
Oh, that's why all the World War II text is like World War II. Like what? Yeah,
Yeah.
you
So,
said
and I came across that. I love the music from that thing. It never went anywhere, but I love the music from it. And I was like, well, wait, actually, we might be able to use this. I mean, maybe we want to resample it because it does sound like old synthesizers and stuff. But like, I was like, that would be kind of cool if we could use that in, finally get to use it for something.
yeah, because it's like I was looking at some of the textures. Ah, some of these we can actually use in the World War II folder.
The concrete stuff is pretty good.
I like the metal girder. It has this shape. I don't like the color, and I don't like that's like half resolution. But the girder, the grass is just a picture of grass. That's not useful.
Yeah.
Um, 104. Some of this looks a little bit too toony. Like they don't look. They're either oversaturated or
Yeah, of
they
course.
just this that's more of a home out. Like it's good texture, but
Okay, so we're gonna do a materials test, I guess, is our next step. We're gonna test those 5 materials, see what we come up with using a variety of methods,
mhm.
and then we'll go. I think that's a really good way forward, and then we'll go from there. Do we have
Yeah.
anything else to discuss today?
Oh, when you gonna add entity fields of view so we can actually apply to the view models?
Probably. I mean, that's pretty low priority for me.
Okay.
I'd much rather get like, well, two things. I'd rather get the ballistics in first, and also, I'd prefer to defer shader modifications as much as possible between, because right now like 097 and 098 are in sync,
Right.
and so people can easily flip back and forth. So if there's no reason to break that compatibility yet, then let's just wait a couple of weeks. But this demo is coming out in like 4 or 5 weeks, so no matter what. So, oh, one more thing. The Leadworks bundle. I haven't heard from one of the participants. I sent you guys a message, everybody. So that will go out Monday. If there might be another approval step needed, since I'm removing someone from the bundle, since they're not responding to emails or messages or anything. I hope they're all right, but they completed all the first steps, but they're just not doing the last step. It might require another approval process from all the remaining participants. No matter what, Leadworks is going on sale Monday, so I'm not going to delay it. But I'm sure if anything is needed, I'm sure everybody will respond. Everybody else has been pretty quick to respond. Do we have anything else before we end the video?
No, I'm gonna go through
No.
these textures real quick, and then I'm gonna want to do the I'm gonna do the health manager.
Cool.
I'm gonna also send you my theme, and I'm gonna push my current code that has the joint issue.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so next week we will talk about, I'm expecting to talk about first person shooter ballistics. That's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you all for joining. Very good,
Yep.
very good show today. Oh, and by the way, if you are Steam reviews, we need Steam reviews, everybody. We need Steam reviews. I don't care if you like us on YouTube. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. But Steam reviews really help. Our review score is very high, but I'd like to get more reviews in there because it's a weighted average. I'd like to get that high score locked in. So please, if you're happy with the direction that things are going, and you want to see more great first-person stuff and game templates and stuff using Ultra, more examples, more tutorials, more features, then please add your review on Steam. It really, that more than anything else, really makes a big difference. Thank you everyone for joining today. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on the forums.